If you ask people what problems our cities face, traffic is likely to be near the top of the list.
Now the nation's largest city is trying something new. Last week, New York's governor and legislature both approved what's known as congestion pricing. It will charge drivers a fee to drive into the heart of Manhattan and use the money raised to help fund mass transit. Here to discuss the plan that other cities are also looking at is Derek Thompson, a staff writer at The Atlantic. Derek, good morning.
Good morning.
This is such a hot button issue. I cannot tell you the number of times I've jumped into a limo, a taxi, an Uber, where the drivers are lecturing me about why this is such a bad idea. Break it down for us.
Well, the reason why it's a bad idea is pretty obvious. New York is expensive enough. And with rising taxes from the Republican tax plan, rising home insurance, rising costs of living, you're thinking, and now I have to pay just to drive in this city an extra $10? Here's the case. Streets aren't free, but a lot of people use them for free. A lot of people use them for free. And as a result, if you're trying to drive across Midtown, it's going to take approximately 19 hours in the middle of a weekday. So the thinking behind a congestion tax is essentially, well, if we charge people what this resource actually costs, what the streets cost, it will reduce congestion, it will reduce emissions, and then finally, it will encourage more people to use public transit and provide more money for public transit so the buses and the subway system improves.
This has been done in European cities, notably in London. Is there evidence it works?
It's been tried in London, it's been tried in Singapore, it's been tried in Stockholm, and it has basically worked everywhere it's been tried. But what does work mean? Well, work means it has reduced congestion in these cities, it has reduced driving deaths in these cities, and it has reduced measured emissions in these cities. So if you're an environmentalist or you're someone who just wants to get around town faster once you're already downtown, congestion pricing works pretty much everywhere that it's tried.
So let's talk about those numbers. One that you mentioned, it costs American drivers an average of 97 hours and over $1,300 a year. New York City might be the first, but when you think about what is happening elsewhere, as he mentioned, I mean, what are some of the drawbacks?
Well, I want to focus on what you just said. It costs the average New York driver 97 hours and $1,300 to be stuck in traffic. Congestion already enacts a tax. This is simply another way to get people to pay it. And it's a way to get them to pay it such that it benefits other public transit. Now, the drawback is relatively obvious. The drawback is that it's going to make it a lot more expensive for people to drive downtown. And a lot of these people have to drive downtown. They're coming from the suburbs.
And you're talking about
outside of 60th Street.
You're talking about some low-income people too, for whom the car is essential. It's how they get to work. So, I mean, how do you deal with that?
There's a couple of different ways you can deal with low-income people driving into these areas. One is that you can rebate the congestion tax back to them at the end of the year. You can essentially say, you're paying a little bit more throughout the year, but we can rebate it to you at the end of the year. The other thing you could do is to say, because essentially this technology is going to work a little bit like Easy Pass, we won't install that Easy Pass technology in drivers that make less than a certain amount of income. Right now, the city, for example, is talking about $60,000. Maybe it's 70, maybe it's 80, but you essentially exempt some people from the congestion tax.
All right.
That's
Derek,
a lot.
Yeah, and it's coming to a lot of cities. Derek Thompson, thanks.
Thank you.